Good morning. Just let me know if you can't hear me or if I go too quick. Um, I'm really been looking forward to coming here today and to share some of my life story with you and hoping that it will kickstart or inspire or make some changes to your mindset. Um, I don't do presentations, sort of the formal presentations, but I've made a few notes, so just bear with me. Before we get going, I want to apologize before I actually get into this. I can be quite provocative. Um, I have my views, and I don't mean to offend anybody. And just in case you think that I'm actually being single gender or I'm picking on a particular group, I'm very apolitical. I'm very, as I deal with people. It doesn't really matter what background anyone's from. But I have unique experiences that I'd like to share with you. Um, the important thing to me really is to set the scene, to take it back to the beginnings. You know, I see so many people nowadays so unhappy, having mental issues, challenges, and it seems to be trauma after trauma. But little do they really know that that's it's a relative term, and some of us been through hell and back and lived to tell the tale. It's a story of making your dreams come true. It's a story of making the impossible possible. It seems unreal. It seems it is not possible to do these sorts of things. But trust me, it is. So how is it? How is it possible for a young immigrant boy born in poverty, in the middle of absolutely nowhere in a medieval time, it seemed like, very primitive, no modern conveniences. We ends up in this country, in Luton. As Carla said, not educated, goes to school 9 years of age, learning a new language, a new culture, new people, unable to read and write. How is it possible that person go from those unpromising beginnings to a world today where my businesses, I employ 600 people. We generate gross profits of 20 million pounds, and I'm proud to be able to say that I made that break. I'm also proud to be able to say that actually, once you made enough money, life does change, and it does give you that freedom, and you can then enjoy the pleasures of life, but at the same time, you're going to do things that you always want to do. It's Maslow's hierarchy of need, this self-actualization, where once you've had enough to feed yourself and have a roof over yourselves, you want to do good deeds. And this is part of my doing good deeds, is try to share my story, to try and transfer that knowledge and whatever experience I've had to hopefully to re-energize from the negatives to positives. So I'll set the scene, and then I'm going to hopefully give you some snippets of what I've learned my way, okay? It's not in textbook. They don't teach you this in the Harvard Business School. But hopefully it will transfer to you some of the absolutely essential nuggets that I've picked up in my life that have been transformational to me, to my people around me, my family, and my friends. So, entrepreneurial spirit. So my father, who was a first-generation immigrant, came to this country on his own, went back after 5-6 years. He started a business, and unfortunately, within 2 years, it had failed. He comes back to the UK, and then this was before all this immigration rules. You know, they used to go and recruit people from just after the war for labor. So you know, the Commonwealth, the Caribbean. So my dad got recruited. You know, young man needed to be brought to this country to rebuild. So that's what he did. So he tried his business. So it failed. So you know, the decision then was, well, let's just all come over to UK and see what we can make it go off. Like I said, for 6 months, did nothing. Didn't realize we could go to school straight away, so we had to wait till I was 9 years of age. That was a very, very difficult period, I have to say. So I've got to really take you into those moments. I call it hell, really. There's no other word for it. It was an absolute living nightmare. You know, you go to school, my dad drops me on the first day and says, there it is. So I just literally walked through, a little 9-year-old kid. I was the only Asian, believe it or not. This is Luton, right? Inner city Luton. I was the only Asian kid in the school. And I thought, where are all the brown kids? You know, there was none. So I was learning to read Peter and Jane Peter and Jane books, right? And the kids were all doing normal lessons. No wonder I got picked on. They must have thought I had special needs because I just, they thought, who's this kid? He can't even read. So you can imagine how difficult that was to catch up and then to be picked on relentlessly and relentlessly. But you know what? After a couple of years, 2 years at junior school, it all stopped because I started to be able to communicate. And as soon as you're able to communicate, it gives you so much more power. So all that little bit of bullying, it wasn't, the word people use racism. Racism is a big word. I think people are generally ignorant. We're all ignorant of different races and cultures. And when we open up, we're all can be very interesting. And it makes life more interesting, doesn't it? So I thought, okay, that's not bad. So senior school, 2 more years in Luton this is, so 4 years in Luton. But then, unfortunately, it was a different experience again. But this time, a different scale. This time, it was violence. It was an inner-city school ruled by black kids, okay? So if you're anything other than a black kid, you were picked on relentlessly. That's all it was. It wasn't to do with anything else. It was just to do with power and pocket money. So really, what did I do? Pretty much everybody conformed and complied and said, okay, fair enough, whatever money you had, you gave it in. And that's how the whole structure was made. But I decided, no, I wasn't prepared to accept that. I would not turn the other cheek. Somewhere along the line, at the very beginning of my life, this additional emotion was instilled into my DNA. And guess what? I stood my ground. And all of a sudden, when you stand your ground, things don't become such a big problem anymore. And things started to change, but I had to face the consequences. I had to go with my convictions, and I did okay, But by the end of the first year, I was accepted. And no more bullying, no more pocket money was required. Not that I had any pocket money anyway, because we were so poor. It was school dinners, So anyway, my dad, ever the entrepreneur, his first generation, what does he do? He decides, what had happened in Pakistan? No, it's okay, it doesn't matter. I'll start again. And now that's a quintessential entrepreneur. So he bought an ice cream van. And there's me, 12 and a half years of age, I would do the ice cream with them, serve customers. That's where I learned the art of people, how to get along with people. If you're nice with people, people are nice with you. If you smile, they smile back. If you're miserable, they're miserable. So it's action with the reaction, isn't it? So very early on, all these emotions were formed in my life. Then, of course, my dad gets even bigger. He said, right, now we're going to buy a business. So he did, so he's doing okay. So guess what? As Carla said, we came to Telford, Wellington. And one day my dad says, we're going to Shropshire. And I thought, where is this? What is this place called Shropshire? Never heard of it. So I had to look on the map. There was no M54 there, so it came on the old A5. And there used to be a factory called Glinwood. Glinwood? I can't even think of the place now. And it was desolate, dark and desolate. And I thought I'd come from one place with sunny place to Luton inner city. Now it's all countryside, but there's no people. It's just countryside. So, but you know what? That was very, very transformational for me. Because I do wonder if my father hadn't made those moves, where would it ended up? If his business had done okay in Pakistan, where would I be today? You ask these sort of questions, but we all make these life changes. We go forward. There's no point reflecting back on what ifs. So we came to Wellington, and that really, so for the first time, my life started to settle a little bit. I even got myself in the grammar school. How I got him in grammar school, I really don't know to this day. I must have convinced her name was Miss Ethel Austin. And I went for the interview, and she says to my dad, your son's bright. Don't need to do entrance exam. We'll have him in. Little did she know. Okay, so it was downhill from there. I'll come out to that in a minute. But the other thing that actually really was a transformation for me was I got the love for sport. So at the grammar school, there was fields, football fields, rugby, cricket. It was just like utopia for me. And I befriended an old English man. And he must have been, must have been about my age, but he looked ancient to me at the time when I was a little kid. And he was an ex-cricketer, ex-pro cricketer. So he instilled the love of cricket in me. And he persuaded me to go and join Wellington Cricket Club. And one day I got the courage. I don't know how I did it. Me in a little bag. One day I went to the Haygate Road where it is. And then I turned back. I didn't have the courage to go in because I was on my own. But then one day I did. And they welcomed me in. They became my second family. They were absolutely brilliant. They opened my eyes to the world of possibilities and made me realize, actually, this word called racism is nonsense. There's no such thing as racism. It's ignorance. And there's some great people. And this is a great country. And all of a sudden, I started to see some possibilities for a brown kid, a Muslim kid in a foreign country. And I started to learn about history and realized, actually, we belong. The black people, the Asian people, we all belong. You know, we all been part of this empire. So we don't need to be aliens anymore. So what do? How am I going to make my fortune? Joe Nobody, really. Good man of no prospect, living in a £10 a week bed sit, for God's sake. Didn't have enough money to pay for 50p meters at times. Anne's mother came to see me one day with her, and I could see it in her eyes. I could see I ran out of 50p's. It was so cold. And I could tell in her eyes, she must have thought, what am I doing? What are you doing with this loser? You know, because that's exactly what I would be saying. Bless her, she never said it. You know, bless them, they just supported me. They didn't really judge me. They gave me the opportunities. So what do I do? What do I do? How can I get somewhere? So I thought, right, I like people. I like talking to people. You know, I just enjoy that. So I started, instead of working in a bank, instead of working in a leisure center, I started selling door-to-door insurance, door-to-door. What on earth does that motivate somebody to do just that? Can you imagine? Then they call it cold calling. Trust me, it's freezing out there when you can't get in. We would go to a place like Buxton, and that is really, really cold. They would put you in places where you have to be motivated to knock on doors. But that was it. That was the moment, ladies and gentlemen, when it really, really dawned on me that I was going to make a fortune. How? Because I realized I had bottle. I had character. Before that, it was just talk. For the first time in my life, because I wanted to be somebody. I wanted to get somewhere in my life. All of a sudden, things started happening for me. I got a job in a leisure center, which I turned down. And all of a sudden, it clicked. I was saying the same things I thought to the same people, but all of a sudden, I started getting results. Because the energy that I was transferring, it was so captivating, it was compelling, it was attracting, because I really believed in what I was trying to do. So that got me going, because most people cannot do that. It's too much hard work. Everybody looks for options, easy options. Go on the phone, try and find an easier option. There is no easy option in life. You've got to confront your demons. Like I did with those kids at Beach Hill High School. You have to stand up. And I learned the art of winning. I learned something about success. So I'm going to share with you now 3 things that I believe are the absolute golden nuggets have been for me in my life that's helped me. And trust me when I say this to you, if you transfer those key attributes, power 3 attributes, it will help you in whatever walk of life you're in. It doesn't really matter whether you're going to be a business person or a scientist or artificial intelligence, whatever your skill is, you know, that's fine. So what is it? The first is extraordinary motivation. And that extraordinary motivation, it's not just a word, it's a spark, it's a fire in your belly type of motivation. So for me, it happened through adversity. For some of you who are talented, it will happen naturally. You'll find you're very good at something, you follow through, and they'll carry on and carry on. For me, a failure, the disaster, made me realize I had to do something about it, was the catalyst of my life that I vowed from that moment on I would never, ever fail at anything. If I did, it would be through not lack of effort. So that extraordinary motivation has taken me all this way through various jobs. I then started, obviously, I did that for a short period of time. It was about 6 months of my life. I then, you know, you have to start thinking smarter. The education then kicks in. I then set my own financial services business up. And it really went from there. But everything I've done in my whole life has been revolved around passion, commitment, this extraordinary motivation. You've got to give it all. It's all or nothing. There's no half measures in life. If you commit, absolutely commit, you will always get the nod. I train with guys 20 years younger than me in the gym, in my gyms. And they may be stronger than me sometimes, but when it comes to the crunch times, I still more times than not, I still actually outperform them because I just got that little bit of extra edge in me that they haven't got. And it's self-taught, it's propelled, and it's part of my DNA. So that's the first power of 3. I'm sure there's more to it than that, but we'll just have a look. How am I doing for time, by the way? Got 10 more minutes? Okay, good. It's difficult to time this. I mean, I've done no rehearsal, I just wanted to chat with you guys. The second power is equally important. Risk. I call it the ability to take risk. Not gambling, risk. When you are motivated to do something, you will look at something and you'll regard that as an opportunity. If you are not so motivated, you look at that situation and regard it as what? Risk. Risk, problem, what ifs. What if this doesn't happen? What if this is a disaster? Or what if it does work? That's what you got to look at it. Always look at it from the positive side of things. Weigh something up, commit. And I can give you so many examples of that. So I'll get going. I'm starting to make some bit of money. Within 5 years, I've gone from being a pauper to a millionaire. At a time when a millionaire meant something. Before 30 years of age. But I had sense. I thought, I'll do what the Asians do, invest in property. Okay? So the Asian is sometimes never leaves you, that route. Land and property. That land and property. So this is surreal, actually. So I got myself going into this property company whilst I was in my financial services business. And I got the opportunity to buy a property in Hanley. I went to auction, but the very first auction in London at Allsops. I buy this property. And the price was something like £750,000. It was a big deal for me. I had a mortgage lined up with Commercial Union because I was in financial services. And they came back and said, the guy came and saw me and said, look, I'm just going to survey the property and I'll sign it off. Great. He comes back an hour later and you could look at his face and I thought, uh-oh, I've got a problem here. I'm sorry, I can't lend you the money. Why not? We think there's a structural problem with it. So I'm left with the situation where I've got to complete the deal, can't get a mortgage on it. And the contract is valid. So what am I going to do? Somehow, so you don't lose your shirt at the back, somehow I managed to pull the deal together and I managed to get the funds to buy the property outright. From a disastrous situation, I then find that within a few months I managed to do a deal with Staffordshire University. And we convert upper floors into halls of residence. And then we do a structural survey on the property. And we found out that actually there is no problems. All it was is these professional surveyors, on the hearsay, said that this property was stood still as a shell in the war. It had steel rust issues. But the fact is, there was no issues. So a gamble that nearly didn't come off, a risk that nearly didn't come off, in the end became one of my best investments. And that gave me a kickstart to everything I've done since. That property probably earned me about £7-8 million over the years, and then literally just recently sold it. So it proves that by taking risk, sometimes you have to have the bottle to go through with the convictions. And sometimes things don't always go your way. So come on to my third, and the most important, I think, is you take your chances, you're really motivated, and what's going to happen is, we're human, aren't we? We're not infallible. So we're going to have fall down occasionally. It's what you do when you fall down is what's going to determine your next stage in your life. That is probably the most important thing of all things. We could all be, when I used to play cricket, there used to be a guy who was great, and he was a bit of a bully, smack. When he came across the tougher opponents, he couldn't handle it. It's how you handle the pressure, how you handle the most difficult situations. And I want to just give you one example of that, Waterworld. How it took me 18 months to do the deal. I went, I looked, never been before, and I thought, that's it, I'm going to buy this. No research, just instinct. Went to the bank and said, yeah, no problem, we'll get KPMG to do the due diligence. And I said, what's due diligence? And they said, well, because I said, how much is it going to cost? I said, £25,000. I said, £25,000? I've done my due diligence. I like it, I want to buy it. Come on, give me the money. And they said, well, it's not quite that simple. We will get you the money, but it's going to, forget it. I went to my company, put my chambers out, and I said, can you lend me some money, please? Sure, fine. Borrowed some money from my company, which Fortune had some money. and I ended up buying it. Blind. One could say blind. It was losing £500,000 a year. No one wanted to buy it. But you know what? It's been the best investment of my life. Because what the big problem was, but there was no problem. People have no bottle. So there was a bit of an issue with the rate. £500,000 of rate. So you can imagine it's quite a big deal. But I sussed out there was a way around it. But I had to take the gamble to buy the business first to take my chance. So I buy the business, the bill comes in. It was October 1999, I think. I remember to this day, and I had to sit down before I opened it, you know. And the bill came in. I thought, how am I going to afford to do this? So you know what? The motivation, when you're down, you do something about it. So what do? I get on the phone. And I want to speak to the valuation office, because it's been sitting in the valuation office for 12 months and no one's made a decision. This is before internet, of course. But no one wants to speak to me. No one, you know, forget about the computers. The person saying, no, he's busy. Anyway, after 4 or 5 hours of trying, about 10, 15 calls, the guy finally succumbs. He says, Mr. Chaudry, you're a very persistent man. What can I do for you? I said, well, this is the problem, whatever his name was. This is the problem. You've been sitting on this for 12 months. Previous company was a FTSE 100 company. I'm a one man. And I want you to do something about this. Otherwise, it's going to be big issues. Guess what? Within 7 days, I got a new rateable value of 100,000 quid. So that saved my skin, but that also gave me the opportunity to get into it. And now it's the most successful water park business, water leisure business in the country, valued £70 million. And it cost me £1.5 million. I took all that risk. So sometimes the biggest risks give you the biggest rewards. Never, ever be afraid to take your chances. And I want to finish off by quoting you Theodore Roosevelt. Heard of him? President Theodore Roosevelt, man of words. He summed it all up, what I've tried to sum up in the last half an hour. So it's not the critic that counts. It's not the man who points out when the strong man stumbles or when the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust, sweat, and blood, who strives valiantly on, who knows at the best, in the end, the triumph of high achievement. But he also knows if he fails, he has failed whilst daring greatly. For his place is not amongst those cold and timid souls that know neither victory nor defeat. For when a man has had to fight for it, life truly has a flavor that the protected shall never know. So that's my words to you, ladies and gentlemen. Believe in yourselves, go for it, and never turn back. Thank you.